Hey, good evening, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. Waiting for this to kick off over here. Hopefully everyone's having a good night. Hopefully everyone's in for the evening and off the roads. The storm is moving in as expected. It's just starting to crank up. So I know we had a bit of a delay on it. I know people were worried about a bust, but models are still solid on it. From what we can see on radar, what we can see, what's been going on up north of Denver, they've had snow for a few hours now, getting some pretty decent amounts out of it. So definitely an interesting storm, and it's probably going to be a big one for a lot of areas. So if you've got plans for tomorrow, probably not going to be best to get out in the morning at all. But like I said, I'm just got home. I got all my animals ready. The cows are in, the horses are in, everyone's set up. Haven't had a whole lot of time to look at data just yet, but obviously we know, it's the storm's here. We know how it's going to play out. I haven't looked at models from this evening yet, but I have a pretty good feeling of where they're going to be. So I figured I would just kind of talk about it tonight. No script or anything, no graphics prepared, so bear with me for just a minute while I get things set up when I do. But we can take a look at a couple things here to get started with. So with that, let's look at here are your watches and your warnings. Winter storm warnings are in pink. Winter weather advisories are in purple. Winter storm warnings basically mean travel's not recommended. Heavy snow, probably some wind, just not a good time. Purple is a winter weather advisory. As you can see, the Springs and Fountain, all the way out towards Kit Carson, Cheyenne Wells. those are um, those are the areas that are in the winter weather advisory. Those are basically difficult travel areas. So um, something to keep in mind there if you're out and about tonight. If I zoom this out a little bit, you can see, uh, you know, basically a northeastern Colorado type of event here. Um, you got a little bit of the winter weather advisory down here, and then if you notice the mountains, once you get west of the divide a decent way, it's winter weather advisories up there. So travel difficulties in the mountains, and pink along the winter storm warning here, especially in the foothills. That is going to be significant. There's going to be some huge snow up there, huge snow. So one thing I'm going to take a look at here is, let's go to this, and then let's take a look at our radar. So give this just a second to load here. And as you can imagine, the radar is starting to get active, so we'll loop it. The heaviest snow has been kind of hanging around the northern part of the metro area, North Denver, for a little while. And a lot of that is starting to move in and fill down to the south. So get this rolling. And as you can see, we've kind of got almost a northerly motion, not northerly, but southwesterly motion to the flow here. That is telling me that this main circulation of the storm is not even quite here yet. So what you're seeing tonight with the snow starting to ramp up, when we start to see that wrapping back around, that's when you know that circulation is establishing out here somewhere. So a lot of areas not seeing snow just yet. I know a lot of people in Elbert County said it's a mixed bag. I'm kind of here west of Elbert, and I'm seeing some decent snowfall, but areas not too far to the east are not seeing a whole lot yet, but as you can tell, it's coming. It's starting to ramp up down around Black Forest. When I drove through Castle Rock about half hour, 45 minutes ago, it was cranking up a little bit over there and up towards Surrey Ridge, Parker, Littleton, Denver. So this thing is starting to crank up. Like I said, hopefully you're off the roads. Had a question about likelihood of power outages tonight. I don't think the wind's going to be too big of a deal out of this thing. I'd say power outages would probably be more likely in the rural areas. But this is not like March of last year where you've got 80-mile-an-hour winds. But you could see 30 to 40 miles an hour out of this thing. Interestingly enough, the snow, because of the storm is going to be so cold and it's so early in the year for this type of storm, it's not going to be a heavy, wet snow. It's going to be kind of a dry, powdery snow. So that's something to keep in mind. That helps with the power outages. But as you see up here, Fort Collins, Wellington, Berthoud, Longmont, man, they've been getting hammered for a good portion of the day, and they're going to continue. They've got heavy snow moving back up that way, and it's just going to be kind of wave after wave after wave. A lot of these areas could see historic snowfall for this time of year. So interesting stuff. Let me move it over to, let's look at one of the models here. Let me get this cranking up here real quick. Hopefully it's all loaded. This is the NAM 3K, and you know it's a little bit older. It starts back at about 7 o'clock, but as you can see, as I run it through, heavy snow going through 1 a.m. We're going through 2 a.m. You know, and this is one model, so it's you know, at this point in time we're so close to the storm that you'll notice it's keeping heavy snow through the morning. Here we are, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Look at that fill in across northeastern Colorado. And then by noon, you start to see it taper off a little bit, but you know, lingering snow showers, especially along the Palmer Divide, into the 3 or 4 o'clock hour. So I'll rewind that back and I'll step it through just a little bit. But here we are at about 4:30 in the morning. You can still see that heavy snow in the area. Here we are about 8 in the morning. Same thing, heavy snow, really filled in across Colorado here. And as we keep stepping it through, you start to see a little bit of taper off around noon to 1 o'clock. But notice you've still got some snow bands in the area. So that's going to be interesting. There's still going to be lingering moderate snow even as late as 1 o'clock tomorrow. And as you get towards 2 and 3 o'clock, that's where we see things finally start to push off to the east. But again, look, even through 6, 7 o'clock, light stuff. So I think a lot of the impacts will be over around noon, early afternoon. So that's when you can sort of expect this to move out. But the problem is depending on how much snow and how much wind is left behind here, you may still have, if you've got road closures and stuff, it may take those guys a while to get those roads open depending on how bad it gets. Again, I think the worst areas that'll get the hardest hit are sort of that Fort Collins, Estes Park, Longmont, Boulder, Thornton, kind of like draw up I-25 here and then to the west. That's sort of your bullseye right there, with maybe another little bullseye down here over the western foothills just west of Denver. So that's something we're going to have to watch. So we're back to the radar here. What I'd like to take a look at, and this stuff should be updated, is let's look at the snowfall. So this is the Weather Prediction Center model. This is snowfall through, I believe, the next 72 hours. Let me just double check here real quick, make sure we got the right stuff. Yeah, 72 hours, 50th percentile. So 50th percentile means this is the expected amount from what this particular product is showing. So if we pinpoint a few of these here, you can see it's, it's showing about what we've expected, lesser amounts kind of on the Palmer Divide, and that's no secret. But as you get towards Denver, it's dropped things off a little bit. Aurora dropped things off. And what's interesting is I wonder if this is predicting, this is probably additionally to what you already have on the ground. So I don't know if I like this product right now. So what we'll do, I'm not sure what's going on with it, but what we'll do here is let's jump over to something where I can take a little bit better look at things. Give me a second here as I load up my browser. And again, I'm not scripted on this. I haven't looked at a lot of this stuff yet. I'm just kind of walking through what I see. And let's go with her and the NAM 3K. It's going to load up a whole host of models here, whole host. And we'll kind of run the gamut. We'll look at all of them and see what they're showing here. Like I said, the storm's going to do what it's going to do at this point. You're not going to see huge changes one way or the other. At this point, it's highly unlikely this falls apart. And at this point, I see no reason it will. So, the storm's, it's here. It's cranking up. And it's going to be pretty miserable for travel for probably the rest of the night through about noon tomorrow. Let me load these up and I'll talk about what I'm doing here in just a minute. And I'll talk about each product that we're going through. One more. And then I can load some other stuff up once we walk through this. But I'm just zooming this into Denver, and this will be 24-hour snowfall totals. So this is from here, 24 hours out. So first thing we're looking at here, hopefully everyone can see that. Looks like you can. Can't really zoom in too much on this, so apologies on that, but I think it should be relatively clear. But this is the GFS for total snowfall let's see here through, yeah, that's probably your peak right there. So this is through 5 p.m. Tuesday. So I like that. I like that time frame because everything should be pretty wrapped up by 5 p.m. Um, so as you can see, this is going to be in addition to what you already have on the ground. So that's what the GFS is showing. So, Fort Collins, Loveland, Estes Park, those areas, whatever you guys got, this is what you can add to it. So if you're at 5 inches, you're looking at 16 total. If you're at 10 inches, you're looking at 21 total. A lot of these areas up here could see somewhere around 20 inches of snow. Some areas might see locally heavier snow. So again, this is what you're going to see from here, what you already have on the ground through the next 24 hours to about 5 p.m. Tuesday. Yes, we're Tuesday. So 9.3 at DIA, 9.1 up here in Arapahoe County, 9.6 or I-25 corridor down through Castle Rock, it would be about the same. And notice the sharp cutoff. So, for the folks in Elbert County, there's going to be a sharp cutoff here. Not to say that you're not going to get much, but if you're looking at 6 to 9 inches in the western part of the county, but that cuts off very quickly as you go east. So Elbert or Elizabeth, you might be more in the 5 to 8 inch range. So still a decent amount of snowfall, but not quite as significant. A little bit of a dry slot up here, so Greeley and those areas might still pick up a little bit. So that's the GFS. GFS, not one of the most accurate, I'd say, at longer time frames, but we're so close to the storm right now, you have to pay attention to this because it's pretty good at such a short time frame. So the Euro, you'll notice the Euro is painting a bullseye in pretty much that same area, but it's less happy about the snowfall along the Palmer Divide. Not to say this isn't a decent amount of snow. When you get 5 to 8 inches, 9 inches, that's not bad. Is it historic? No. But these areas up here, again, you can see you know, the similarities in the models. They really like that area northwest of Denver in the foothills. So that's your Boulder, your Longmont, your Nederland, all those areas up there, right close to the Continental Divide and the foothills. So back to the Euro here. Less gung-ho on the snow, but still significant. Folks, I mean, if you get 6 inches out of this with the wind and how fast the snow is going to come down, it's still going to cause some decent impacts, even along the Palmer Divide here. So as you go further south, that tapers off really quickly. But Euro's right up there. They're accurate. So if you take these two and say, okay, we're somewhere in the middle of that, you're still looking at decent snowfall totals between the Euro and the GFS. I'm going to look at the NAM here because this thing backed off significantly a little while ago, but it's kind of gone back up. So this is again through 5 p.m. Tuesday. So pretty much all your snow should be done. Notice it's similar to the GFS in these areas around here. So DIA, Castle Rock, it shows some pretty heavy stuff off to the foothills in western Douglas County. So this kind of pinkish white stuff is getting over a foot, so say 12 to 16 inches. And notice that extends all the way up into Jefferson County along the foothills here. So someone was asking about due west Castle Rock near Jeffco. That's Dan. If this one verifies, and actually, I mean, you can see there's definitely consensus along the models, and these are low resolution, so take them with a little bit of grain of salt as far as what details they can pick out. But as you go west of Castle Rock, even right along I-25, you're going to do decent. So 8 to 12 inches looks pretty standard for that area. As you go further west, you might taper off a little bit, but you could still see 7 to 10 out of this thing over there. So if you go back to the NAM is really painting a bullseye over that. So the question is which model is right? At this point, it's sort of like you kind of lean a little bit more on these higher resolution models because they start to pick up details that the other models can't, just because they have a higher resolution. They can pick up the terrain features a little bit better. And every model we're looking at this point, with this close to the storm, is relatively accurate. They just have different strengths and weaknesses based on whatever model you're looking at. So, NAM 3K really painting a bullseye over pretty much all of Metro Denver. Definitely up in the foothills. Again, same theme there. And this is 12.8, 12.9, 11.1, 10.8 on top of what you've already received. So decent, and possibly historic snowfall amounts there. Next model I'm going to show you is the high-res rapid refresh. Another shorter range, high resolution model, and you can see very similar characteristics from the last one. 9.7 at DIA. You're looking at probably 8 to 10 in Denver. Excuse me 1 minute. Tech Center 7.1, getting down into Douglas County. So again, it's pretty close on Castle Rock to what the other one was. So say 8 to 12 there. But again, it paints more of a bullseye over here in the western parts of Douglas County, the foothills. So again, these pinks are kind of the 10 to 12 to 14 inch range. This one's, the HRRR, the HER as we call it, updates every hour. So it's always fun to watch because it's, you have to be careful with it because it tends to bounce up and down, but you have to understand its strengths and weaknesses and how to read it. But again, very similar to all the models. So the main takeaway here is a lot of the models are very lined up on this. That's why we have, pretty high confidence this thing's not falling apart. It's just getting here, and as you saw with the radar early, really the circulation hasn't even ramped up yet. So, a lot of areas are seeing decent snowfall, but it's going to ramp up more. So that's what you're looking at tonight. I'm going to see what else I can show you right now. And if you remember, I showed you that WPC thing earlier. I wasn't really happy with the numbers it was showing, and I'm still not, so I'm really not going to show that. But, again, you can see all the similarities. Here's the NAM 3K. Look at where it's painting the heaviest snow. Foothills, Front Range does pretty well. Palmer Divide does pretty well, but as you get further east, not much going there. High-res rapid refresh, same pattern, a little bit more snow further out east, a little bit more snow over DIA. That to me kind of says we've got some banding going on at some point. So depending on where those set up, someone's going to get some heavy snow out of it. It's a matter of if it's right here or if it's further south or what it does. Euro's lower resolution, so it doesn't have the finer details, but similar pattern. And then the GFS, same thing, similar pattern. So as you can see, the model's really lined up tonight. Really lined up. Okay, so I think a lot of people, if you're not seeing the snow yet, you're going to. It's coming. Let me go back and see if I can get the radar set up here real quick. There we go. All right, and then I'll pop that over. So here's the current radar with the precipitation type, Palmer Divide. Again, if you're out east, you're just starting to see the snow. It's just starting to fill in. I'll loop this. Castle Rock, Douglas County, got a big old blob there. It's really starting to crank up, so you're probably starting to see decent snow in these areas. They were starting to snow pretty hard an hour ago when I drove through them, especially right over this area, Surrey Ridge. They're doing pretty well. Denver is starting to get in on it. Definitely some good snow up there, and as you see, a wave kind of dwindling out for Fort Collins, Loveland, Berthoud. You're seeing less snow up here for right now. The intensity is decreasing, but you guys are far from done, all right? Pierce, Eaton, Greeley, got a decent snow band going over there. Might be seeing a little bit of mixed precipitation out on the plains here, but I think this is all, if it's not snow already, it's going to transition pretty quick. So as far as the mountains, if you're going that way, it's spotty as far as the snow. Again, this is going to mainly be a front range event, but you're going to see some snow right up against the Continental Divide as you go further west. You get in that winter weather advisory territory where travel could become tricky, but it's not going to be quite as bad. And then, of course, Grand Junction and some of these areas that don't see snow super often are getting some snow showers. I know a lot of people are traveling to the south. You could see it's pretty quiet down there. You've got spotty snow showers. As this storm starts to move out to the east and re-intensify, you'll get some snow pushed down between Colorado Springs and Pueblo, out to the east here. But really that cutoff is kind of like Colorado Springs, Pueblo, where you start to see the snow totals dwindle. So if you're traveling, as this thing moves east, it's going to crank up over the eastern plains too. So remember, a lot of the high snowfall totals are sort of kind of I-70 up north and right along west of I-25, but a lot of the northeastern corner of the state will get ramped up here pretty soon with some heavy snow. So you'll see travel impacts. If you're not already, you'll start to see them east of Byers and Lyman and Burlington in a little bit. And same thing with Fort Morgan, Sterling, going up to Nebraska. Cheyenne is already getting pretty heavy snow. I think there's a lot of parts of I-80 that are already closed. So, question about Arvada. Arvada's right up in this. I mean, Arvada's going to do pretty well. I could see those guys getting around a foot up there. So, if the further kind of north and west of Denver you are, you're going to do very well with snow. A lot of these places are going to see more snow than they've seen in a long time, and I've seen a lot of stuff on social media floating around from some good meteorologists that, if this thing pans out the way it does, could be some pretty historic snowfall for those areas up there. So that's something to keep in mind. Sorry, I've been talking about the model but not showing it. But yeah, foothills and areas west of Denver, that's sort of your bullseye right now. So, a lot of those areas are seeing snow. It's going to be on and off for a bit. Like I said, the main energy of the storm has not quite started to intensify out on the plains yet. So a lot of the snow you're seeing now is just that thing starting to move across out on the plains. And when it gets back out here and re-intensifies, that's when you're going to see that snow really ramp up. If you haven't already, it's not. This isn't the worst of the storm yet. There's still a lot more to come. A lot more to come. I'm going to try and pull up some other stuff here and see if I can show off. Let's do fronts and centers. I don't know if it's going to draw those. Yeah, it's going to draw those. There we go. All right, so what we're looking at here is, let me turn the radar back on. So you can see sort of these areas of low pressure coming in from the west here. And, like I said, we're waiting for this energy to kind of get out on the plains. So in a way, if you were here for March 2019, this is a very similar setup with the storm where it's coming across the mountains, it gets shredded up a little bit, but eventually it moves out here and it kind of re-intensifies over the eastern plains. And as it does, it's going to wrap a lot of that moisture back around, and you're going to see stronger upslope. You're going to see heavier snow. You're going to see that moisture. So, very similar setup, but not quite the same storm. The heaviest snow in that storm was kind of like Castle Rock and out east. This one, the heaviest stuff is going to be kind of that northeastern corner and right along the foothills. So Fort Collins, Longmont, Estes Park, Loveland, those areas. So we're still waiting on it. And this is, approximate area of some of those low pressure little vortices coming through. Again, we're going to wait for the big thing to come out here. And like I said, a good way to track that is, let me get rid of these. You can sort of see the circulation here. You see the snow kind of coming up from the southwest. So that's your circulations back here. Low pressure systems rotate counterclockwise. So the fact that we're still kind of in a southwesterly motion with our snow here, to me, says your circulation is still somewhere back here. Crested Butte, Gunnison, Salida, those areas. I could look at surface observations and probably get a better idea of where it is, but it's not out on the plains yet. So it's really not even cranking yet. So again, going to be kind of a long night. We're going to have some intense snowfall. It's going to last for a little while. That's just sort of the way it is for the evening. Anyway, let me, throw one more thing up there. All right. So anyway, that's what we're looking at tonight. I just kind of walked through a few different things of what we're seeing. The common themes are the storm is very much on track. The models are on track. It's not quite here yet. It's just starting. So we have a prolonged period of snowfall ahead of us. Heavier amounts, Denver, northwest, northeastern corner. Palmer Divide, lesser amounts, but more kind of on the western side of the Palmer Divide. So Castle Rock, Sedalia, Larkspur, right along I-25 corridor, maybe into western Elbert County we'll get some decent amounts, but as you get through central and eastern Elbert County and out towards the plains, that's where your snow totals start to drop off. So that's a common theme. If you're going south towards Colorado Springs and Pueblo, only a couple inches down there. I don't think their big impact out of this is going to be so much the snow, but what happens when we get big storms like this, where we get intense northerly winds and upslope on the Palmer Divide, is you get downslope on the other side. It tends to dry the air out. They don't see as much snow. It's not as efficient as making snow, and they tend to get very, very windy down there. So it's one of those things where a lot of people are traveling to the south or the east or whatever the case may be. You know, Colorado Springs, Pueblo, that's you guys will see snow showers, but it's not going to be as big of an impact down there. Um, Let me see if I can take a look at the wind gusts for the NAM 3K. And give me just a second to let this load here. This might take just a couple minutes, so pushing a lot of data through with that load. So these are wind gusts. These are not sustained winds, but I'm going to load these up just so we can kind of see the evolution. And I think what you'll probably end up seeing is heavier winds as you get kind of south down here as the storm is kind of ramping up and going through. And here's your color bar up here. So, you know, your reds and your purples are 30, 35, 45 miles an hour. Those are gusts, so not sustained, but gusting up to that point. You notice the winds don't look nearly as bad up here on the Palmer Divide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that off the screen real quick and let it load. And I'm going to go back to the NAM 3K because this, you know, this is the forecast. This is what the model is showing. And I'll just let it loop through. You can sort of see heavier snow through 4, 5, 6 a.m. Again, if you're just tuning in, this will definitely impact the morning commute tomorrow. It's going to be kind of a rough drive for a lot of areas. So, you know, National Weather Service, CDOT, those guys have been really good about saying stay off the roads tomorrow morning. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. And you'll see it starts to kind of get out of here in the late afternoon and evening hours, totally. Lingering stuff in the afternoon. But I think by about noon to 1 o'clock, the heaviest stuff should be out of here. And we're seeing that across a lot of the models. So, you know, and this model updates every 6 hours. So, you know, 1043, this was, you know, about an hour ago. And you could see it had everything filling in pretty nicely. So pretty close, pretty spot on. And it just continues to have that heavy snow. That's why I'm thinking western Elbert County might do all right with this as far as the snowfall. You know, obviously most Douglas County is going to do well. And then as you get further east, yeah, you got snow out there, but it's not going to accumulate quite as much. Really kind of the northeastern corner is your best bet. What software is this, was asked. This is a software product called WSV3. So if you're interested in stuff like this, you know, I have done a lot of modifications to it. It's a really cool software program, and you know, it costs some money, but you can go online and you can do a trial of this thing. So if you want to play with it, I think it's wsv3.com, and I'll just show you here while my other model's loading what the website looks like. This is some cool software. It's got some strengths and weaknesses. I really love it for displaying stuff on social media and on videos and stuff because it's pretty. It's got a lot of functionality to it. What I'm finding is I do not like the storm chasing capabilities of it. So that's sort of the way it is. But I do believe they have a free trial for X amount of days. That's YouTube. I don't want to go to YouTube. Anyway, I get off on a tangent there. But it's a really cool software program. It's got a lot of features. There's some YouTube videos you can watch. It's got a lot of customization. There you go. Fully functional, no obligation, 14-day free trial. I forget what the price is after that, but it's something that it's not terribly expensive, but it does all right. And if you're someone like me where you're doing a lot of this, it's definitely worth it. They have a TV broadcast version they're working on, but I don't personally use that. I just use a professional version, and it does pretty much everything I need to do. But it's a cool product. So 25 bucks a month, 240 a year. I'm not getting any money from these guys, so this isn't an endorsement or anything. Do what you want, but it's a really cool program. Even if you just get the 14-day free trial to play with, and just if you're a weather nerd, it's definitely the software for you. So. Um, Sorry on a tangent there, but I do get decent amount of questions about what weather software I use, and this is one of several programs I use, but this is the one I lean on the most. So let's get back to this, the wind. I wanted to show the winds because the common theme with the winds here is they're not going to crank as high as we saw in the March 2019 blizzard, and that's why you're not seeing any blizzard warnings with this. Because it's not going to be quite on that same level. Blizzard warnings have more to do with the snow and the wind than they do with just snow. So that confuses a lot of people. It's not clear all the time, but there it is. So, as we go into overnight hours, this to me says that's probably where that low is starting to reorganize out to our east. You'll see some winds, 35, 40 mile an hour gusts out there. So combined with the snow, that's pretty close to blizzard conditions out there. The warning's not up because it probably doesn't last long enough. I think it needs to be 3 hours or more. And as you see, it kind of kicks out of there. But as this starts to wrap around again, as we get into the morning hours, the winds are not terribly, um, you know, impactful, 20, 25 mile an hour gusts, but combine that with the wind, we've got some streaks here, so I don't know if that's a jet streak or if that's just intense areas of lift or convergence. But as you see, we get in the afternoon, the winds die down pretty well. So to the point where they're almost calm in Castle Rock by the evening hours. So as you know, that's when this thing is starting to shift out over over the eastern plains here. So if we roll this, you can actually see, you can almost see where the model thinks this low is going to kind of track. So watch what happens to these winds as they move to the north here. Watch how it kind of wraps around. Even as it starts to move east, you start to see a little bit of a wrap of these winds. So we'd expect, when the low is strengthening and reorganizing, that's where your winds are going to kind of wrap around that center, around that circulation. You've got the jet kind of hanging out down here, subtropical jet down here. And just notice as that goes into Nebraska, this thing is not going to go due east. It's going to kind of eject up to the northeast. So you've kind of got this big cyclonic kind of thing ejecting off. And this is, 9, 10, 11, midnight tomorrow night. And you can see it clears Colorado, but that wind and that circulation is still cranking all the way up into Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, all those areas. And, when you look at it in certain places, it resembles a hurricane a little bit. You've got kind of your center circulation right here. It's not a hurricane, doesn't have an eye wall or anything, but notice how the winds just kind of circulate around that thing as it ejects out to the northeast. So pretty fascinating storm. It's cool to see something like this at any time of the year, but even like for November, these are not, the types of storm systems we typically get. Not to say that we never do, it can happen, but it's fun to watch how it just evolves. It's coming across the mountains, the wind's kicking up. You can really see that circulation start to set in. That's going to give us some upslope cranking. It's going to pull moisture in. We got a lot of moisture coming up from the south here, and you can see it just reorganize and then watch it kick back out to the northeast. So if you're a weather nerd, this is fun stuff. This is fun stuff. Let's see. I'm looking over at questions here. So if you're in the chat and you have questions, definitely I'm looking at those and I'm trying to get to them. I'm not trying to just yap at you all night, but I know someone asked about the software, asked about a few other things. I know there's one question that looks like it was retracted about the low being a little too far north. Originally, that was the thought with this storm not too long ago, where we thought the circulation would set up too far to the north. It looks like with a lot of the models, it's tracked pretty far south. So, it's going to be a great position for heavy snow. Like I said, those northwestern foothills out of Denver, that's going to be your kind of bullseye right there. Let's see if I can get the live radar back up. There we go. So again, when you get good enough looking at these weather maps, you can sort of see what's going on just based on the way the precipitation is behaving. So can you show the low on the large map? Yeah, this software will kind of guesstimate where the low is. It's probably not the best tool to show you, but what I can do is bear with me just a second. Honestly, you know, one of the things I found is if you're looking for where the low pressure is, satellite is your best friend. So let me load this up here real quick, and I'll kick it over so you can see what I'm doing on my browser view here. Let's go with all right, I'm going to loop this. So this is College of DuPage. This is a very handy website if you want to look at, you know, they've got everything from weather models. They've got, this is the GOES satellite, the new one, the high resolution one. It's pretty cool. Let me see if I can, regional. Let's go with that. So if you're really into this stuff, you can play with it. There's a lot to see, a lot to do. But this whole blob is still your unorganized mess of a low. And what you're looking for here is you're looking for circulation kind of in this back part of the whole storm system. That's what's pulling all that moisture in from the south and the southwest, and it's pulling that cold air in from the north. So it's sort of it's a trough, and where you have that trough in the jet stream is where your low is. So that's what's happening right now. We had the cold front move through earlier. We got an intense band of snow that fooled a lot of people, and then it dried out for a bit. That was not the brunt of the storm. What's happening right now is the brunt of the storm is starting to fire up. So look for the circulation. You've got a couple of little ones. So the weather software was kind of on it. You got a little bit right here, kind of near Grand Junction. You've got a little bit down here to the south, which is probably close to Gunnison, Alamosa. But when you look at this thing overall, it's not particularly well organized, and that's expected. It's not a big deal. We sort of expected that. But what it's showing you is, you know, your circulation here is pretty far south, even though it's moving kind of the northeast here. It's pretty far south. When you see low pressure systems like this moving over the mountains, they tend to get shredded up. The peaks, the terrain, everything, it makes it very difficult for them to organize. But once they get over to the plains, that's where they can start really wrapping up and intensifying. And that's what we expect with this storm. Probably somewhere out here, I mean, almost kind of along I-70, I think is where a lot of the models show it tightening up. So that's one thing to watch overnight. And I'm sure, you know, you can go back and get history of this. So it'd be, maybe I'll pull that up tomorrow and see what this thing does overnight. But basically, I would expect that circulation to really start cranking. And when it does, that's where you're going to start getting, you know, you'll start seeing that precipitation. Instead of having this southwesterly kind of motion where it's heading off to the northeast, you'll start to see it kind of flip where it's maybe going north, it's going northwest, it's going back towards the west. And that's where you can kind of tell where your circulation is. So right now, put it right around Gunnison, your main circulation, with maybe another little one out here. I don't think that's going to be a big deal. That one probably falls apart. But your main one is going to set up somewhere out here in eastern Colorado. And again, whether that wobbles north or south, that makes a huge difference in what precipitation you see, how much snow you see. But man, the models, every single one of the big models is locking on to that thing strengthening right out here, which means northeastern Colorado is in the bullseye for heavy, heavy snow tonight. So cool page to visit, College of DuPage. They've got all the satellite stuff on here. My weather software used to do this. It doesn't do it anymore. But it's cool product. Okay. Let's see what I'm... All right. So if there's any other questions, that's cool. I'm going to hang out here for another minute or two and yap a couple minutes, and then I'll probably wrap this up in the next 5. hopefully you guys enjoyed this walkthrough. Like I said, it was pretty unscripted. I just pulled a bunch of stuff up, but I'm always happy to do these sort of things, and you know, I love the weather, so it's always a fun time for me. But yeah, we're everything's pretty much well on track here. We're not seeing any evidence it's falling apart. You're seeing snow bands. That's what we expected, especially with this part of the storm still being down here. Um, in this area, the circulation, Gunnison, Creed, those areas. So that's what we expect. You don't really have upslope kicking in right now. This is not an upslope situation just yet, but it's going to be. Um, this is a lot more just, you got moisture in the air. The moisture is streaming up from the southwest. You've got enough lift in the atmosphere from probably some winds after that cold front. You're getting some lift. But once that circulation wraps around a little bit later tonight into tomorrow morning, that's where your upslope kicks in. So again, when you look at upslope, that's going to be your heavier part of the snow, and that's not even here yet. So like I said, a lot of people are getting kind of fooled and a little bit disappointed in the storm. It is not here yet. So with the models being as locked in as they are, with all the forecasts we're seeing, with everything we're reading from National Weather Service, it's going to be an interesting night. Now, one thing I wanted to point out before I go here, National Weather Service put this up. This is a mesoscale discussion, and these are usually issued for notable or severe weather. So what they're doing here is they're talking about heavy snow is likely tonight along the Front Range and I-25 corridor. Snowfall rates of 3+ inches per hour are possible. So in this highlighted area, that includes most Douglas County, it includes parts of western Elbert County and northwestern Elbert County, Arapahoe, DIA, all these. This is the target for heavy, heavy snow a little bit later tonight. And a lot of people, especially like central Elbert County, were saying, well, we're going to miss out on this completely. No, you're going to get snow out there. It's just the heaviest stuff is going to be kind of right in this area. You're going to see snow. It might be heavy at times. You're probably not going to get quite as much as, say, like western and into Douglas County. So can I put the links in the description? Absolutely, yeah. Dan, what I'll do is I'll throw the College of page in there. So I'll throw that in there that you can play with the satellite stuff, and that's free, doesn't cost anything. And then what I can also do is I'll throw the WSV3 free trial link in there. So you can download the professional version. You can do a free trial, 14 days. That's the weather software I use. If you like it, you can keep it, and there's the cost for it. But it's as close as you can get to the stuff on TV. So it's definitely fun to play with. So Dan, what I'll do is once I wrap up here, I will load those on the description. So as soon as I get done here, just check back, or even if if you're ready to go to bed, check back in the morning. But I'll definitely put those links on there, and you can go nuts. But if you download this WSV3, a lot of the stuff that you see on here works pretty much out of the box. You just have to know where it is. So if enough people get this and they want to play with it, I could probably do like a video where I kind of do a walkthrough of what does what and how to use this software. It's pretty intuitive once you figure it out. And if you're a weather nerd, of course it helps. But you don't need to be a huge weather nerd to use this. It's pretty easy to use. You just, like I said, it's got a learning curve. You got to know where things are. So, but all the models are in there. The coolest part about this software is it's all built in. So I've got GFS, I've got higher res GFS, I've got NAM, the normal NAM, which is a lower resolution version of the NAM. I've got NAM 3K, which is what we have, what I was showing on the other screen, which is a higher resolution version. But it'll show you a lot of different things, wind gusts, reflectivity. It's great for severe weather. The high res rapid refresh is there, the RAP is there, the WRF, the WRF, they call it. So tons of models here. Tons of different radars. If you want to go crazy with the radar, you can go, let's go with Nexrad Pro. You can get much, much higher resolution radar here. So what this does is this is showing you the most intense snowfall. And I think this is pretty much up to date. Yeah, so this is coming out of Front Range here. and you can see where the heaviest pockets of snow are. So just west of Castle Rock, all sorts of fun stuff. So yeah, if enough people want to get it, even if they just do the free trial and they want to do the 14 days, if enough people hit me up, I could definitely do something like that. But the next rad stuff, the level 3 and level 2 radars are awesome because it doesn't necessarily show you snow. We know this is all snow, but it shows you that kind of fluid motion in the atmosphere. So again, we're not really seeing upslope just yet. This is all just kind of lift with that associated cold front and energy that's left in the atmosphere. Once you see the upslope, you'll notice that that direction of the precipitation really, really change. So, um, all right. With that, I am going to wrap it up because I've been going for a little while. I am going to go to bed. I'll probably be up early tomorrow morning. I'm not sure if I'll do another live stream. I kind of like these because it doesn't take as much time, especially when I don't have to write a script or put graphics together. I can just walk through stuff. But look for that tomorrow morning. I'll probably be up early watching this stuff again. So be sure to tune in. And obviously, if you're on YouTube or whatever, make sure you subscribe and get notifications because then when I schedule live streams and stuff, you get better advance notice. Like I said, I'm sticking to this over Facebook just because I can look over here, I can see what people are asking and saying. There's less of a delay, and it just seems to work better in general. So um, with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off for the night. So thank you all for joining me. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, feel free to ask questions or reach out to me. I do have a 9 to 5 job, so I can't always answer right away, but I'll do my best to get back to you. So um, everyone, have a good night. Stay safe, stay warm, stay off the roads. Don't plan on going anywhere before 12 tomorrow. Just stay off the roads. Let the plows take care of it. Let things get working and back open again. All right. Have a great night. I will see you all tomorrow.